What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Dude Hines Show. Today is May 13th, 2021. It is Thursday morning here. There's some big news coming out of the NFL. Wednesday night, the NFL released their schedules for all 32 teams in the NFL. I'm going to be breaking down some matchups I really like each particular week in the NFL. Something interesting this season, there's going to be that extra game. There's going to be 17 games instead of 16 for each team. There's the most games for each team in NFL history. They're having 18 weeks now instead of 17. There's so much to look forward to in the upcoming NFL season. So let's go ahead and break down week 1, and we'll work our way all the way down to week 18. The first game of the NFL regular season happens to be Thursday Night Football. It is the Dallas Cowboys against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Super Bowl champions. I think this is a nice game to pick, to start off the season. The Dallas Cowboys, they are looking to have a bounce back year after Dak Prescott's season-ending injury. And I would not be surprised at all if Dallas is really good this season. I think, the defending champions, in my opinion, always should be starting off the first game of the year. And that's exactly what they have here with Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady. This matchup, to me, is very, very exciting to go either way. I'm just really excited that the schedule was finally released. There's so many games to look forward to. There's a lot of games this season. You've got young quarterbacks. There's going to be games like Trevor Lawrence against Zach Wilson and Trevor Lawrence against Joe Burrow against Justin Herbert. Tom Brady going back to Gillette Stadium, not being on New England Patriots, actually be the opposing team on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's so many great games to look forward to this season. Some other games in week 1 I really like are the Seattle Seahawks and the Colts. The Colts bringing in Carson Wentz from the Philadelphia Eagles in a trade that I absolutely loved, and lots of people have mixed feelings about it. I think Wentz will do great things with Indy. I cannot wait to see his first game with the Indianapolis Colts. Another game I like here is New York Jets taking on the Carolina Panthers. This is kind of a revenge game here for Sam Darnold. He spent a couple of seasons with the New York Jets, and then trading him to the Carolina Panthers and took Zach Wilson second overall. I love revenge games. There's quite a few revenge games this upcoming season. And Darnold against the Jets, to me, is a really intriguing matchup, especially to start off the season. Another game I like here in round 1 is the Browns taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. These teams played each other last season in the playoffs, and the Chiefs ended up defeating the Browns to go to the AFC Championship game. I really like this game as well. I think it could go either way because, the Cleveland Browns, in my opinion, definitely have one of the best rosters, not just in the AFC, but in the NFL in general. And to close out week 1, the Miami Dolphins take on the New England Patriots. The Patriots' offense and defense, just their team in general, is completely different from what it was a year ago. Miami was definitely a playoff caliber team last season, having 10 wins. Would not be surprised at all if Miami has another solid season. There are so many great games in each week. And it seems like the first couple of weeks, to me, are always the most exciting because you actually get to see, what players and what teams are really going to break out. Who's going to be the surprise teams, who's going to be some of the sleeper players. It's going to be really interesting this upcoming season. As we continue here in round 2, there's a Thursday night football matchup that I'm intrigued by. That is the New York Giants taking on the Washington football team. The Washington football team won the NFC East last season. Despite being under 500, I expect the Giants and the Washington football team to be better than they were last year. The Giants, towards the end of the season, were looking pretty nice with Daniel Jones, and that's with Saquon Barkley being out for basically the whole season due to a season-ending injury. They get him back. Cannot wait to see him back with New York Giants. Another game here is Minnesota Vikings taking on the Arizona Cardinals. These are two teams that I do not think people should be sleeping on this season. Would not be shocked at all. The Vikings and the Cardinals both made the playoffs. And this is going to sound crazy. I would not be shocked if the Minnesota Vikings even ended up winning the NFC North. I have lots of confidence in the Vikings this season. They have one of the best drafts in the entire NFL. They have Justin Jefferson, who is statistically the best rookie receiver ever last season. They have Adam Thielen. Kirk Cousins' contract's coming up soon. I expect him to have a big year. I'm pretty excited for the Minnesota Vikings, especially here with, Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury, see if they can maybe get to the postseason for the first time. A couple other games here in week 2 I like are the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Chargers. Dak Prescott coming off an injury, and Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league this season. They have a much improved offensive line. Would not be shocked at all if the Chargers were in playoff contention this season. That would be a fantastic game. To close out the last week 2 game I have here is the Buffalo Bills taking on the Miami Dolphins. And the Bills won the division last season in the AFC East. I just really love this game here. Tua, he's a young quarterback. He's looking to prove the doubters wrong. Lots of people aren't really sold on Tua, myself included. And you have Josh Allen, who was in the MVP conversation a year ago. I really like this matchup here in week 2. In week 3, there's not as many great matchups, but there are still quite a few good ones. One is the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Last season, Justin Herbert's first ever start was actually against the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chargers nearly upset the Chiefs. That was when Tyrod Taylor, got hurt and everything. Has not started a game since. I'm really looking forward to that one because I think the Chargers is going to be one of the most improved teams this year. Being a Cincinnati Bengals fan, you look at the Bengals schedule. The first team that always comes to mind on the schedule is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cannot wait till week 3 till the Bengals play the Steelers. Would not be surprised at all if the Bengals would upset the Steelers here. Roethlisberger, I would say this is for sure his last season. Joe Burrow is coming back from an injury. They got Jamar Chase in round 1. They have so many weapons. And, with Roethlisberger, this is going to be probably his last year. It's going to be so weird, seeing a different quarterback start for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Because, Roethlisberger has been one of the best quarterbacks for about a decade and a half in the NFL. It'd be really strange when he's no longer in the NFL. The final matchup in round 3 I have here is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Los Angeles Rams. This was actually a rematch, kind of from last year's Monday Night Football performance. The Rams actually upset the Buccaneers. Would not be surprised if this happens. All the teams in the NFL, I think the team who has a chance to defeat the Buccaneers and cause them to not win the Super Bowl would probably be the Los Angeles Rams. And the Rams, to me, they just have one of the best complete teams in the NFL. The best rosters right now, I would say, in no particular order, some of the top teams come to mind, in my opinion, are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Rams, and the Browns. I cannot wait till this Buccaneers and Rams matchup. This is one, in my opinion, I've kind of circled on. I think it's going to be one of the best games in the entire NFL season. Heading into week 4, there's only really 2 games, in my opinion, that are really intriguing. Thursday night, the Jacksonville Jaguars go on the road to the Cincinnati Bengals. It's Trevor Lawrence against Joe Burrow. I cannot wait till this matchup. Basically a rematch in the national championship game several years ago when LSU defeated Clemson. I cannot wait for this game. 2 young quarterbacks, 2 players who were first overall, 2 quarterbacks who are going to be the stars of the league for the next decade. Cannot wait to see that game. To close out the week 4 schedule here, it's impossible to not talk about basically the elephant in the room. Tom Brady returning to Gillette Stadium to take on the New England Patriots. It's just something you never thought you'd have to say, in your life. Tom Brady's going to New England to take on the Patriots as an opposing team. You look at Peyton Manning, when he went to the Broncos, he took on the Colts. When Brett Favre was no longer with the Packers, he played the Packers some. When he was with the Vikings. In my opinion, this is just the weirdest kind of like player revenge game ever. Tom Brady's won 6 Super Bowls with the New England Patriots, and now he's playing there as an opposing team after he just won a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Cannot wait for this game. In my opinion, this is probably the most anticipated game in the league in general. I'm really, really excited about this game here. There's some great matchups here in Week 5 I like. Starting off on Thursday Night Football, the Rams go on the road to take on the Seattle Seahawks. A divisional game in the NFC West. This could possibly be an early implication on who could win the NFC West in the division. The game here I like is the New Orleans Saints going on the road to the Washington Football Team. The Saints no longer having Drew Brees. I don't think it's going to stop their pass-heavy offense too much. I think Jameis Winston will have a great year with the Saints. Him taking on the Washington Football Team's young defense, the best young defense in the NFL. It's a really, really intriguing matchup. Another game here I like is the Buffalo Bills taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. That is a rematch from last season's AFC Championship game. The Bills try to get revenge on the Chiefs. And to close out here in Week 5, Monday Night Football, actually, the Indianapolis Colts go on the road to take on the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Colts are one of the most underrated teams going into the season. And I honestly believe the Ravens are one of the most overrated teams in the year as well. I'm really looking forward to that game. Wentz last season, really struggled under pressure, really struggled under general. And, him playing against the Baltimore Ravens, they have a pretty solid defense. Really interested to see Wentz, how he performs against the Baltimore Ravens defense. In Week 6, there's a couple of matchups here I like. The Miami Dolphins take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Tua, he was a top 10 pick last season from Alabama. Then you have Trevor Lawrence, who was the #1 pick this year. This rematch from the national championship game. Cannot wait for that one. Two teams, in my opinion, who have very, very bright futures. Another game here is the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Washington football team. The Chiefs' high-powered offense against the Washington football team's stout defense. It's really an intriguing matchup here. I really love it, when there's a top offense and a top defense, who performs better, see which team can make a stop, which team can score. Those games I'm always a big fan of. And they close out here in Week 6, and really intriguing matchup. The Dallas Cowboys take on the New England Patriots. New England Patriots, like I mentioned, have basically a brand new team. The Dallas Cowboys kind of have basically a brand new team as well. Sean Lee retired. They bring in Micah Parsons and Jabril Cox and get some secondary help with getting Elvin Joseph, the corner from Kentucky, in the second round of the draft. He had some guys back from injury like Prescott. Dallas and the Patriots are a very, very fun matchup here in Week 6. Week 7, Thursday Night Football, a game I'm really intrigued by is the Denver Broncos taking on the Cleveland Browns. And I know last season I was really high on the Broncos. Obviously they were last in the AFC West. They had so many injuries, so many players, opt out due to the coronavirus. But I think this game's kind of intriguing here because the Browns definitely have one of the best rosters in the NFL. But really look at the offensive talent that the Denver Broncos have. They actually have one of the best, talented offenses in the NFL. Just people don't really talk about them enough because they've not won many games past several seasons. Really excited for that one. Another game I'm excited for is the Jets go to Gillette Stadium to take on the Patriots. I'm really interested to see Zach Wilson playing against the Patriots and how he does against Bill Belichick in New England. That's always a fun game to watch. Last season, when Herbert played against the New England Patriots, the Patriots actually beat the Chargers 45-0. That's just absolutely insane. Despite Herbert's incredible rookie season last year, one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen, they shut Herbert and the Chargers out. It's nearly impossible for a rookie quarterback to beat Belichick, and I'm really interested to see how Zach Wilson performs against the Patriots in Week 7. And a couple other games here I like in Week 7. It's basically a revenge game for Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. The Lions head to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. Stafford against his former team. He spent a decade with the Lions, and then Goff goes back home to Los Angeles and takes on the Rams. I'm very intrigued by this matchup as well. But this game probably not going to be close. Revenge games, in my opinion, are just so fun to watch to see how players who used to be on the team, how they perform against their former team. And to close out Week 7, Sunday Night Football, the Colts take on the San Francisco 49ers. Who knows, by this point, Trey Lance could be starting for the San Francisco 49ers. If he is, that makes it so much more intriguing. You have Wentz, who in my opinion is a dark horse to win the MVP. I know it sounds crazy, but I think Wentz is going to have a fantastic season. You have Trey Lance, who's put in a fantastic situation. He may not start right away, but he has so much talent around him. And even if Lance plays average, I think the 49ers are going to be a fantastic football team this season. Cannot wait for that matchup. And Sunday Night Football in Week 7. To start off Week 8, like I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, the New England Patriots take on the Chargers. Last season, the Patriots shut out the Chargers 45-0. I do not see that happening again. The Chargers have a much improved team. They had a phenomenal draft. They signed Corey Linsley, the center from the Green Bay Packers, in the offseason. In my opinion, this is actually probably the most underrated signing in all of free agency. Definitely one of the best signings. They got Slater at 13, which is a steal. Their offensive line is so improved. I think Herbert's even going to have a better season. With the Patriots having a completely different team, it's going to be very interesting how this game plays out. Another game here I like in Week 8 is the Washington football team taking on the Denver Broncos. Who knows who the Broncos quarterback will be here in Week 8? It could be Drew Lock. It could be Teddy Bridgewater. Who knows? But like I said, the Denver Broncos have some of the best young offensive talents in the entire NFL. And the Washington football team has one of the best young defensive talents in the NFL. This is a very intriguing matchup to watch. I know some people might not care about this game, but in my opinion, I think this has a potential to be a very, very nice game. And to close out Week 8, the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football go to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Like I said, the Vikings, in my opinion, would not be surprised at all. They're a playoff team. They're very underrated and not really talked about enough. The Cowboys are going to have a comeback season. Would not be surprised if either one of these teams won their division. To start off Week 9, the Browns go to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals, the Battle of Ohio. Last season, Both these games were won by the Browns, but could have went either way. They were won by basically the last few minutes. Really excited for this game. The Browns have an extremely talented roster. The Bengals have a more talented roster than they did last season. Would not be surprised at all if the Bengals would maybe upset the Browns here, but I do not expect a sweep by either team when they play twice in this season. Another game here I like is the Packers taking on the Chiefs. If Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback here, it's going to be an extremely interesting matchup. If he's not, this game is basically pointless because the Packers, in my opinion, aren't going to be good at all if they do not have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. The game here is the Arizona Cardinals taking on the San Francisco 49ers. Like I said, the Cardinals are definitely a playoff caliber team, and so are the San Francisco 49ers. This is a very interesting matchup. The NFC West, you really look at it, basically any four of those teams could wind up winning the division. All four of those teams are playoff caliber teams. Cannot wait to see how that division plays out. And to close out Week 9, the Chicago Bears go to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers on Monday Night Football. And the only reason I have this on here is because if Justin Fields is starting mid-Week 9, and I'm sure he probably will be, I'm very interested to see how Justin Fields will perform against the Steelers and their very elite defense. Start off Week 10 on Thursday Night Football. The Baltimore Ravens take on the Miami Dolphins. This is a very intriguing matchup. The Dolphins, they do not have a good offensive line. They actually had a worse offensive line than the Cincinnati Bengals last season. And, the Ravens have a great defensive line. They have a great defense. Very interested to see how this performance goes between a great defensive line and a very bad offensive line. Another game here I really like is the Browns taking on the Patriots. 3 or 4 years ago, if you said the Browns would beat the Patriots, you were basically laughed at. Now it's not that, impossible to say the Browns would beat the Patriots. The Browns actually have a better roster than the Patriots. That's just absolutely crazy to say. Cannot wait to see this matchup. I think it's one of the more underrated matchups on the NFL schedule. Another game here I like is Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to Washington to take on the Washington football team. This is a rematch from the playoff game last season where the Washington football team and Taylor Heineke nearly beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Unfortunately, I would not say that Heineke will probably be starting right now. It's probably going to be Fitzpatrick here in Week 10. But with their great defense and Tampa Bay's great offense, this is going to be a great matchup. And to close out Week 10, the Los Angeles Rams go to San Francisco to take on the 49ers on Monday Night Football. Like I am continually saying, the NFC West is the best division in the NFL, and it's not even close. These games have a huge implication on who will win the division, especially, being a divisional team. The Rams and 49ers have some of the best rosters in the NFL, and I think this has potential to be a great matchup. To start off Week 11, the Colts take on the Buffalo Bills. This is a playoff rematch from last season where the Buffalo Bills had their first playoff win in over a decade, defeating the Colts last season. It was actually future Hall of Famer Philip Rivers' last game. Really excited to see how this game goes out. Especially, Wentz. I continue to say it. I think Wentz is going to have a monster year. I know people are really sleeping on him. They were actually laughing at the Colts for trading to get Wentz. I think it's going to prove a lot of doubters wrong. Cannot wait to see this playoff rematch last season with the Colts and the Bills. Another matchup here, is the Packers going to Minnesota to take on the Minnesota Vikings. Like I said earlier in the episode, I would not be shocked if the Vikings won the NFC North, even if Aaron Rodgers plays for the Packers in every single game this season. I really don't know how the Green Bay Packers have such a great record the last 2 years. Their record was really good this last season, but Aaron Rodgers had his best year ever, and they were still unable to go to the Super Bowl. The year prior, they had 13 wins, but they had the worst playoff differential for a team who with at least 13 wins in the last 30 years. The Packers, they've had some close games. They've got lucky by some as well. But I'm really excited for this Vikings and Packers rematch. Division rivals here. I'm really, really excited for this matchup. Would not be surprised at all if the Vikings would upset the Packers. And a couple other games here I like in Week 11 are the Cowboys taking on the Chiefs, two of the best young offenses in the NFL. Basically, whoever has the ball last might end up winning. Kind of similar to last season to the Buccaneers taking on the Chiefs in the regular season. And to close out Week 11, on Sunday Night Football, the Steelers take on the Chargers. I'm really interested to see how Justin Herbert plays against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Like I said, the Chargers offensive line last season was actually worse than the Cincinnati Bengals. The Chargers had some improvements on the offensive line. drafting Rashawn Slater and signing Corey Linsley. That still might not be enough when it comes to the Pittsburgh defensive line. Start off Week 12 on Thanksgiving Day. The Buffalo Bills head to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Very interested in this matchup. I'm very excited about how Jameis Winston will perform this year with New Orleans Saints and with Sean Payton as his head coach in his first really full year, really first ever start for the Saints. I would not be surprised at all if Winston has a great year. Josh Allen with the Bills, I think they're going to have a nice year as well. Very interested to see this matchup play out. A couple other matchups here I like in Week 12 are the Pittsburgh Steelers heading to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. Like I said, if you've not seen my videos before, I'm a massive Bengals fan. And you look at the schedule, the teams I always see first and the games I always care about the most are the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's our biggest rival, and it's not even close. Really excited for this matchup. Not trying to be biased, but, I'm really excited. This is always my favorite game of the year for the Bengals, despite, us Bengals fans pretty much always being let down when the Bengals play the Steelers. And a couple other games here, like in Week 12, are the Rams playing the Green Bay Packers. This was actually a rematch from the playoffs last season. And I think if Matthew Stafford was the quarterback last season for the Rams, they would have ended up winning that game. It was awfully close. Ramsey did not play great for the Rams. Rodgers did play nice. But really interesting this playoff rematch with the Rams and the Packers, especially with Matthew Stafford as new quarterback as the Rams. And to close out Week 12, on Monday Night Football, the Seattle Seahawks go to Washington to take on the Washington football team. This is a very intriguing matchup. The Seahawks, Russell Wilson in the offseason, has been vocal about he wants an improved offensive line. The Seattle Seahawks improved their offensive line a little bit, but nothing spectacular. And the Washington football team has the best young defensive line in the NFL, and it's not even close. Deron Payne, Chase Young, Montez Sweat. They have so many great players on their defense. They got Shaka Toney in the 7th round from Penn State, who I think has potential to be a star with them. Really excited for the Seahawks-Washington football team matchup here in Week 12. Start Week 13, a game I'm really interested in is the Chargers taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Justin Herbert against Joe Burrow. The best quarterbacks from last year's rookie class, and it's not even close. Very interested to see how this plays out. Lots of people think Herbert's better than Burrow. Some people think Burrow is better than Herbert. I cannot wait for this matchup. I think this is one of the most underrated games here on the NFL schedule. Another matchup here I like in Week 13 is San Francisco 49ers heading to Seattle on Sunday Night Football to take on the Seahawks. It's a very interesting game. As we get into Week 13 here, this might have a big implication who ends up winning the division. Very interesting to see how that plays out. And the last matchup here I have in Week 13 is the Patriots heading to Buffalo to take on the Bills on Monday Night Football. Last season the Bills took on the Patriots Monday Night Football and absolutely blew them out. It was not even close at all. Very interested to see how Belichick, and the Patriots, come back this season to trying to take back the AFC East. In Week 14, a couple of matchups I like are the Baltimore Ravens going to Cleveland to take on the Cleveland Browns. As we get closer towards the end of this regular season schedule, the Browns and the Ravens, when they face each other, has huge implications of who may end up winning the AFC North. Very interested in this one, but I would not be surprised at all if the Browns would end up winning the AFC North. Despite lots of people talking about them potentially being one of the best teams in the NFL. As a Bengal fan, kind of pains me to say this, but they are still extremely underrated. I really think the Browns might end up winning the AFC North. Another game here in Week 14 I like is the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Washington football team. I think whoever ends up winning this game here has a lot better chance of winning the NFC East. And you close out Week 14, the Rams take on the Arizona Cardinals on Monday Night Football. Another NFC West game I have one here. Kyler Murray taking on the Rams defense. With Aaron Donald, so many other great players as well, is a very intriguing matchup. The Arizona Cardinals want to be in playoff contention and get a playoff spot. They're going to have to get a couple of these very difficult wins to getting a division win over the Rams on Monday Night Football. Week 15, there's not really many great matchups at all, in my opinion. There's only kind of two that stands out. One is on Thursday Night Football. The Chiefs take on the Los Angeles Rams. Would not be surprised at all. This is kind of a Super Bowl preview, kind of similar to last season when the Buccaneers took on the Kansas City Chiefs in Tampa Bay in the regular season. And the other game here is the Patriots taking on the Colts. The Colts and the Patriots were the best teams in the AFC for nearly a decade, with the Tom Brady and Peyton Manning rivalry. Now it's, could be Matt Jones or Cam Newton starting here for the Patriots and against Carson Wentz. Very interested to see how that game plays out for the Colts and the Patriots. In Week 16, there's quite a few matches here I like quite a bit. There's actually 2 Christmas Day games I'm very interested in. One is the Cleveland Browns taking on the Green Bay Packers. When it comes to Week 16, 17, 18, all these games have huge playoff implications and, division implications as well if teams will end up winning their division. Going to Green Bay on Christmas Day is not going to be an easy win for the Browns. But I think if they get this upset win here, it really helps them possibly secure a spot to win the AFC North. Another Christmas Day game I like is the Colts taking on the Arizona Cardinals. This game could really go either way. I expect great things from both these teams this year, so it's going to be very interesting to see how that game plays out. The Rams head to Minnesota to take on the Vikings. Very interested in that one. I could maybe see an upset. The Vikings taking the win over the Rams. I'm very excited how this Viking team will play out this season. Like I've said a couple times here in this video, would not be shocked at all one bit if the Minnesota Vikings would end up winning the NFC North. A couple other games here. The Bills head to New England to take on the Patriots. Now we're in Week 16, depending how Cam Newton or Matt Jones performs. Whoever the starter is Week 1, and they continue to be great, who knows? Maybe this has a huge implication who will end up winning the AFC East. A game I absolutely love so much here is the Jacksonville Jaguars heading to New York to take on the Jets. Trevor Lawrence, the first overall pick, and Zach Wilson, the second overall pick, playing against each other. Most people had Lawrence as quarterback 1. I actually had Zach Wilson as my quarterback 1. Cannot wait to see this matchup between the 2 best rookie quarterback prospects this season. And to close out Week 16, on Sunday Night Football, the Washington football team heads to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. A huge rivalry game here will have huge implications on the NFC East. I honestly believe whoever ends up winning this game between Washington and the Dallas Cowboys will end up winning the NFC East. Now, Week 17, there's a couple of games I like here. The Kansas City Chiefs go to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. The Chiefs have the best offense in the NFL, but I think the Bengals have potential to be one of the best offenses in the NFL in a couple of years. With Burrow, Mixon, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and Jamar Chase to the Chiefs offense, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, so many other great players as well. This is going to be a high-scoring matchup. Cannot wait for that one. The Cardinals take on the Cowboys. Kind of like I said earlier, the Cardinals want to have a playoff spot. They're going to have to win a couple of these very difficult games. This is not a division game, but winning at Dallas is not easy. And if the Cardinals could win in Dallas here, getting the upset over the Cowboys, would not be surprised if the Cardinals maybe sneak into the playoffs. Another game here I like is the Jaguars taking on the Patriots. Kind of like I said earlier, it's very difficult for rookie quarterbacks to defeat Belichick and the Patriots. The Patriots shut out Justin Herbert last season 45-0, despite Herbert having one of the best seasons ever as a rookie quarterback. And they close out Week 17 in the final Monday Night Football game of the season. The Cleveland Browns take on the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. I do not think at all the Pittsburgh Steelers will even be close in playoff contention at this point, but I think this has huge playoff implications for the Cleveland Browns if they will end up winning the division or not. Very interested in all these Week 17 games here. A few games here I like in Week 18. This is very interesting because it's the first ever Week 18 in NFL history. It's the first season ever where there's going to be 17 games played for each NFL team. But some games here in Week 18 I like are the Patriots heading to Miami to take on the Dolphins. I think that has implications of who could possibly win the AFC East. I think it's a 3-way race between the Patriots, Dolphins, and the Bills. I think all those teams are definitely in playoff contention, and I think the Patriots have to get a win here to possibly win the AFC East once again. A couple other games here I like are the Bengals heading to Cleveland to take on the Browns. The Browns have to win this game to win the AFC North. And who knows, if the Bengals have a couple upset wins, maybe they are quietly close to playoff contention. If they get an upset one here, maybe they sneak into the playoffs. My last two here are the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Rams, a huge implication in the NFC West, and the Seattle Seahawks taking on the Cardinals. The last two games, were NFC West games, and the NFC West is just so intriguing. I think whoever has the most division wins in the NFC West will ultimately be the team who wins the NFC West. There are so many great games this upcoming season. We get to see Trevor Lawrence against Zach Wilson, the first overall pick against the second overall pick. We got to see Trevor Lawrence, the first overall pick this season, against the first overall pick last season, and Joe Burrow with the Cincinnati Bengals. We got to see Tom Brady returning to Gillette Stadium to take on the New England Patriots, after winning a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last season. There's so many great games to look forward to. So glad the NFL schedule is finally released and we can finally look forward to the NFL season. Thank you all so much for listening. If you could like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel, I would greatly appreciate it. And I will see you next time on Sports 200.